The biggest mistake somebody can make within their MBTI system is when having difficulties with their main two functions, chuck them, especially their main function, and move on to different function. For example, I'm an ENFP. I lead with NE, extrovert intuition. Let's say, right, every time I have extrovert intuition, and I say, oh, I wonder what would happen if that, and then I forget to do my homework. I get shamed, I get yelled at. Someone says stupid idea, someone says, move back to reality. So I begin to attribute shame with my NE. So I say, you know what? I'm going to move into my third function, my TE. Problem with that is because my NE is my main function, I feel most adult-like, I feel most matured, I feel most present using that function. It's my main function, right? That's where I rock. That's where I soar. That's where I get my life from, to a certain degree. So I start moving into thinking. So what you're going to notice is that your body is not going to feel so much like it's you doing it. You're going to feel a little bit not as embodied, not as in control, you're not going to feel as great using that function. So the key is, instead of moving to a different function, you want to go back and revisit your main function, so NE would be in this example, and sit there and say, oh, this is the way I experience the world. And every time I hear that shame voice or I feel that shame feeling, I'd be like, yeah. And then I hear it again, I'd be like, and just listen and move back into your main function. Another example would be someone leads with NI. They intuitively move into things. Intuitively know. Now what happens if they intuitively move into cleaning the house? Because they feel like that makes the most sense intuitively. And someone says, you idiot, what are you doing cleaning the house? You gotta... So again, the same thing happens. They begin to look at the NI function, their main function, and kind of find shame in it. And they're going to move to a different function. Now, one example that can move is, let's say you're an NITE. So you could start spending much more time thinking about your decisions or about what you're going to do, as opposed to moving gracefully in your NI. And again, it's not going to be as bad as if you're moving into your third function, but it's not going to feel so great. You're not going to feel so comfortable moving into your second function. Let's take another example. Let's take an INFJ, right? They lead with NI. So, let's say, by trusting their intuition, it could even be around a particular person, what happens is they get destroyed for it. They feel terrible for it. So now, they're not going to be as trusting of their intuition of doing things. They're going to be much more, I would say, not as in control. They're going to be spending much more time using their feelings, trying to gauge what is right, what's not right, which is really hard to do, especially being your feelings is not your main function. They also could then move into a third function, let's say move into SE and clean the house, or they could try to find a different function that could give them a sense of life to get away from the function they're in right now. We're about to go on a really fast hill. I'm going to show you guys what it's like. You ready? Woo! This feels awesome. Awesome. Oh. What's up, man? Woo! Anyways, this could be the biggest mistake. People who go to therapy, they can spend so much time analyzing and using a function that's not theirs, and really, you might be developing your function a little stronger, but you're not going to find happiness because you've rid of your main important function. So find your main function. And rock it, embrace it, love it, dream it. Because that's where you are a superstar. Later.